Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Friends, Namaste. On behalf of Team Param Vedanta, I extend one and all of you a hearty welcome for today's 65th session of DISHA. DISHA, as you are aware, a series aimed to lead us into an inward journey for discovery of the inner strength and happiness. Today, our Param Vedanta teacher, Srimati Vidya Prabhu, shall explain from the two texts, namely from verses 1 to 24 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga, where answering Arjuna's questions, Lord Krishna introduces new topics. 3 types of Shraddha, 3 types of food, 3 types of yajna, 3 types of tapas, 3 types of charity, and significance of Om Tat Sat. From Tattva Bodha under subtopic, she will explain Uttama, Madhyama, and Adama Karmani. This presentation is followed by a teaching quiz to be presented by Srimati Padma Chandrasekhar. This quiz is aimed to reinforce and emphasize the important aspects of today's topic. Sri Ullas shall give us an introduction to today's topics. Srimati Shamala will commence today's session by chanting and explaining the shloka Vagartha Viva Sampruttau from famous Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha. Srimati Shamala, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vagartha Viva Sampruttau Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. This is the opening shloka in Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha, a Sanskrit Mahakavya, describing the previous slide, please. Describing the lineage of kings of the Raghu dynasty, ancestors of Sri Rama. It is a prayer by Kalidasa addressed to deities Lord Shiva and Parvati, seeking their blessings for proficiency in literature, as he begins the epic poem Raghuvamsha, that is to gain expertise in the right understanding of the words and their meanings. I bow to Parvati and Parameshwara, who are the parents of the universe and are inseparable like words and their meaning. Next slide, please. Before going to the shloka, let us know about Mahakavi Kalidasa, a poet who has made a distinct and glorious contribution to the sumptuous Sanskrit literature is Kalidasa. He has pictured in his works the beauty in life and pondered upon how we can give joy to others by generous and graceful behavior. Who is this Kalidasa? According to one such popular legend, Kalidasa was not always so wise and learned. He was considered to be one of the stupidest people in the kingdom. Some shrewd pandits wanted to teach a lesson to the arrogant princess, so they wanted to gift this Kalidasa to the princess by telling her that he was a Mahagnani. She believed and they both got married. And his stupidity could not be concealed for a long time and he was thrown out of the palace. The dejected Kalidasa wandered around and he saw some women washing clothes on the edge of the river bank. He observed that the stones which the women were pounding with claws were smooth and rounded, while other stones were rough and ragged. This observation hit him like a thunderbolt, and it dawned upon him that if stones could be worn through and change their shape by their pounded upon by claws, then why could not his thick brain change by being pounded upon by knowledge? Kalidasa determined and started indulging in intellectual pastimes and incessantly praying to Goddess Kali to grant him divine knowledge, and Goddess Kali blesses him. Next slide, please. His great works are Kumara Sambhava, Raghuvamsha, Malvikagni Mitra, Vikramor Vashishya, Abhigna Shakuntala, Meghaduta, Ritu Samhara, Shamala Dandakam, etc. Next slide, please. Now, let us look into the sloka. Vagartha viva. Vak, artha, iva. Vak is word and artha is meaning in this context. The word iva means like. The meaning of the phrase would be just like the word and its meaning. Samprukta. Samprukta is blended into one or attached to each other. Pratipattaye means in order to acquire. Acquiring what? Vagartha. Vak and artha, the word and its meaning. Jagataha. Jagata is the world. Pitarav. Pita is father. Pitarav in this context would be parents. Vande, to salute. Parvati, Parameshwara. Parvati is goddess Uma and Parameshwara is Lord Shiva. Kalidasa prays to the divine parents Parvati and Parameshwara who are inseparable like the word and its meaning in order to guide him in acquiring the power of words and their meanings as he embarks on the Mahakavya Raghuvamsha. There can be no meaning without speech and there can be no speech without meaning. Some Sanskrit teachers make their students recite before the beginning of each class. Next slide, please. There is another interpretation at work here in terms of whom Kalidasa was actually praying to. If the final phrase is rearranged a bit, we get like this. Parvatipa Rameshwara. Now, Parvatipa, Pa in Sanskrit can indicate Lord of or husband of. Thus, Parvatipa can mean Lord Shiva, husband of Parvati. Rameshwara can be split as Rama Ishwara, meaning the Lord of Rama, goddess Lakshmi, who is Lord Vishnu. Thus, this can also mean that Kalidasa is praying to Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, Harihara, who are Pitarav, fathers to this Jagat, who are inseparable like the word and the meaning. Some interpret Vag also means the holy Vedas. So the word Vagartha means meaning of the Vedas. Now Vagartha Pratipattaye means to access the meaning of the Vedas. Therefore, we, the students of Veda, must chant this sloka and seek the blessings of the parents of this universe before our studies. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Hari Om. Thank you, Shamalaji, for such a great explanation for that special shloka mantra. Let's begin today's class. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Padyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Right now in DISHA, we are in the Charma Shatakam. As we all know that Gita has 3 Shatakams, chapter number 1 to 6, 7 to 12, and 13 to 18. And right now we are in the Charma Shatakam, the pinnacle of all. And in that also, what we have studied is the most liberating knowledge, the self-knowledge. Again, why is it called self-knowledge is the liberating knowledge? Because most of our bondages, most of our problems are because we are unaware of our self, what we are actually made up of. When I say I am a male, I am an engineer, I am wealthy, I am whatever, all those things indicate that there is some lack in me, because all those things can still get expanded, they can still become better in the material world. So whenever we understand that yes, I am conscious, I'm existent, but anything that we put after that kind of indicates there is some more desire, some more wanting is there. And so in chapters 13, 14, 15, we learned what is the nature of the real self, or what's the real nature of myself. Once I know that I'm actually Purna, that is when I will be able to get out of all that bondages and ultimately liberate myself. So in fact, chapter number 13, 14, 15 have already given all the juicy knowledge of Charma Shatkam. Then some might think that 16 and 17 are not so important, or maybe I have already gone through the most important learnings. But at the same time, we've also felt, many of us have felt it at different times, that even though we have learned so many things, these things we are not able to really enjoy in our lives. We have not been able to get their benefit out of that. So it's basically like 13, 14, 15 are the seeds, are the knowledge seeds that are given to us. But we have to actually make the soil fertile. Only then those seeds of knowledge are going to be of any use. However potent a seed is, sure, the seed is something which will give us an apple or a banana or a wheat or whatever. But if the soil is not ready, then the seed is also of not much use. Even Swamiji once goes ahead and says that, like a soil being ready is like your mind being sātvic. So that is like 90% of the battle won. So even if you don't have the self-knowledge, maybe you can still survive. And very beautifully, if you have like 90%, you will achieve. If you have prepared your mind in a sātvic manner, which is being taught in chapter 16 and chapter 17. But on the other hand, if you have all the knowledge, but if you don't have all the right practices, how you have to operate in life, then maybe that knowledge is just information. It is just sitting in your database somewhere. So that is why the importance of chapter number 16 and 17 is immense, to actually gain the benefit of whatever we have learned in 13, 14, and 15. So 16 and 17 make the soil fertile. Then the 13, 14, 15 seed is going to really fructify. So in the next slide, we see that again in chapter 16, just a very quick recap, we looked at Daivi Sampat and we looked at Asuri Sampat. Daivi Sampat is something, all the good qualities which help us retain that knowledge, which help us receive that knowledge, how we can do that Shravana, Manana and all. Asuri Sampat is something by which we can, what will happen is, sure, we have received the knowledge, we have retained the knowledge. Now we have become a good database. Unless we avoid all those things which should be avoided, then our transformation will not happen. Then we'll become informed Rakshasas. We know everything, but we have Asuri pravrittis. So we have to avoid those things. So in 16th chapter, we extensively dealt with what are the do's, don'ts and all. And how do you get those is Upanishadic way of living. What is that friendly lifestyle that we have to follow? That we have to know through Shastras only. Now what happens is, now Arjuna gets a question that, okay, if you only get through Shastras this way of life, then what happens to the people who don't really go through these Shastras, who don't have access to these Shastras? Many people just listen to so many Swamijis and Gurujis, and even in today's age, it is very much relevant that not everyone that we know around is going through Shastras only. Then what happens to them? Is their mind now a Sātvic mind or a Tamasic mind or a Rajasic mind? What happens to them? So that question arises in his mind. Next slide. So that is the question he asks Lord Krishna. Then Lord Krishna obviously answers him about that. And Krishna being Krishna, he just doesn't stop there. He thinks that there are a few more things which are very important in terms of how you should live your life. What should be the way of your life? What is the art of that living? So he goes and tells us about those also. But before that, let us also understand a little bit like what is Sātvic, Rājasic and Tamasic is in a broader sense. Obviously, Vidyaji is going to cover it. But Sātvic thing is something which is done just for its own sake. It's not really done for some other benefit, or there is no quid pro quo going on. Sātvic is done because like how we've seen art. Art is anything which is done just because you get you just enjoy doing that by itself. You're not doing it for something else. So that is Sātvic. Rājasic is something that whatever I do, I get some material benefit out of it. And Tamasic is, if I'm hurting myself or others and I'm pursuing such an action, then that is a Tamasic thing. So all these things he asks for, that type of Shraddha which comes with or without Shastra. Then in the next slide, we see that again, Krishna will tell that, Shraddha depends on who you are worshipping, how you are worshipping, for what is the purpose you are worshipping. Again, all those things will depend upon, will make a difference on whether it is a Sātvic, Rājasic or Tamasic. Idea ultimately is to make our mind prepared, that it is a Sātvic mind, that our soil is ready. And a sattvic mind is the prepared mind. So that is the ultimate goal. And then he also talks about that it is not just about our reading of scriptures only, but there are other things also. For example, how our food is, how much quality of food, what quality, what quantity, with what attitude we are eating it. What are the different yajnas, the 5 Panchamaha yajnas that we have? What is the purpose that we are doing all those things for? Is it for fame? Is it for name? Am I doing it to get something out of it? What type of tapas, austerity I'm doing? Again, is it self-motivated or somebody is forcing me to do that? And tapas can be of different types, whether it is kaika, vachika, manasika. And these are of different degrees of difficulties, but I have to have that also in myself. And then most important, and perhaps one of the rather difficult things in our lives is he talks about danam, that is also a very important thing in our way of life. Because what happens is today we are not able to part away with 100 rupees or 1,000 rupees or a lakh rupees or whatever. Then at the end of our time, we have to part away with our body. And we can imagine like what is the attachment that we have with our body. So if we will not start practicing that giving away of things, then that giving away from our body will be very difficult. So it prepares us for that biggest drop that will happen. So 17th chapter is loaded with all those things. And yeah, so in the next slide, we ultimately will see that Krishna would advise us to reduce whatever we are doing in the Tamasic domain. We have to do as little as possible in the Rajasic, and we have to maximize sātvic. Tamasic should be completely avoided. Rajasic, as much as we can drop it down and move it towards the sātvic domain, it is great. But again, like for example, if you do a Tamasic danam, that somebody is forcing you to do a dana, it is still better than not doing any dana. So that is that one caveat. And in the next slide, we see that ultimately he's also going to touch upon a very important mantra, which is very powerful mantra, in which sure, whenever we do any action, there might be some flaws, etc. But this super mantra or maha mantra is going to convert all those flaws into, it will negate all those flaws, all those tamasic and rajasic activities also. Once we chant this mantra, they'll become sātvic. The idea is not that let us do all tamasic activities and at the end we chant Om Tat Sat. The idea is that we always do everything with right-mindedness, but because unknowingly still certain things happen, so we chant this mantra and then we get over upon that. So this is the overall summary or overall introduction of the chapter number 17. And then Vidyaji is going to cover it in extreme detail, in which we will understand what Krishna is talking about. And then she'll also talk about the different type of karmas, adhama, uttama, and madhyama karma. Over to Vidyaji.
Thank you, Ullas. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The 17th chapter occurs in the last shatakam of the Gita, where 3 important themes are dealt with in this chapter. They are Jnana Yoga as the sadhana, Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam as the subject matter, and the importance of values or sadguna as a preparatory step for Aikya Jnanam. Samsara is self-inadequacy, as Swami Paramarthananda puts it. It can be destroyed only by self-knowledge. Here, in this chapter, Lord Krishna wants to convey an important idea that even though self-knowledge is powerful enough to destroy samsara, the self-knowledge requires a lot of preparation. It requires a prepared mind. In the 16th and 17th chapter, Lord Krishna analyzes the steps for a prepared mind. There are different names in Sanskrit. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti is one. Next slide. Another name is Jnana Yogyata, and also it is called Guna Brahmanatvam. In simple words, it is a sattvic state of mind, which is a prepared mind. It is free from stress and strain. It is relaxed, open, receptive, ethical, and can absorb the knowledge like sponge absorbing water. So Lord Krishna wants that one should give more importance to a sattvic state of mind than the Vedantic study. This chapter is divided into 3 portions. The first portion is from 1 to 6, where Krishna answers Arjuna's question regarding faith, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga, and that is the reason for naming this chapter as Shraddhatraya Vibhaga. The chapter begins with Arjuna's question. based on Krishna's statement in the 16th chapter. The statement was, Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Karya Akarya Vyavasthitam, meaning scriptures are the guidelines in directing one's life. This prompts Arjuna to ask this question: what is the status of those people who ignore the scriptural rules and worship with faith? They are scripturally illiterate people who have faith in God and do puja, japa, etc. So what would be the nature of such people? The phrase used is Shastra Vidhin Usrajya. Usrajya means they violate. But they are Shraddhayanvitaha. Their strong plus point is that they have Shraddha. Tesham Nishtaka, meaning where do they stand? Satvamaho, Rajastamaha. Will you classify them under Sātvika Bhakta, Rājasa Bhakta, or Tamasa Bhakta? Krishna's answer to this question is the subject matter of this 17th chapter. So, Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehinam sa swabhavaja. Sātvika Rājasi Chaiva Tamasi Chetitam Shrunu. Dehi in the second verse here means Ajnani Bhakta or a scripturally illiterate person, and his type of puja, attitude, motive, everything will be swabhavaja, governed by his personality, his mindset, his inclination, his purva janma vasana. They are sātvic, rājasic, tamasic, and since the character is threefold, character-based faith is also threefold. The sātvika, rājasa, tamasa shraddha. Tam shrunu. Listen patiently, O Arjuna. In the third verse, Krishna says, faith of a person depends upon his mind. Satvanurupa bhavati. Ya yet shraddha. Whatever a person values in his earlier days, sa eva saha. His personality will develop on the same grounds. As a person thinks, so he becomes. In the next verse, Lord Krishna categorizes Shraddha under three types. One factor is the object of worship, second is the motive, and the third one is the mode of worship. Of these three factors, Krishna has enumerated the first factor in the fourth verse. Sātvic people will worship Sātvic deities like Rama, Krishna, Shiva, Vishnu, etc. Yaksha, Kinnara, Gandharva are all Rajasic deities. Spirits and ghosts who are invoked by going to the burial ground, oblations that involve blood, etc., will come under Tamasic deities. In the fifth verse, the phrase Ashastra Vihitam speaks of the Rajasic and Tamasic forms of worship, violating all the scriptural rules and regulations. Dambhahankara samyuktaha, with pride and vanity. Kama raga balanvitaha. Kama means desire for worldly things. Raga means attachment. And balam means power. In the Puranas, Rakshasa do ghora tapas not for spiritual progress, but for material gains. In the next verse, Lord says, Achetasaha mam chaiva karya karsayantaha. They are the unintelligent people who torment themselves as well as the Lord residing within their body. Such devotees are Asuranishchayan, of Asuric resolve or negative resolve. So we understand here that any type of puja for spiritual growth is Sātvic, and for material benefit is Rajasic, and for harming others is Tamasic. After answering Arjuna's question, Krishna chooses to add 4 more topics which are very essential for a spiritual seeker. They are Aharah, Yajna, Tapaha, and Danam. Aharah means food, Yajnaha means puja that a person performs, then Tapaha means austerity, and Danam means charity. Trividha Bhavati also are of 3 types, Sātvic, Rājasic, and Tamasic. In the 8th, 9th, and 10th verse, next slide, Lord Krishna deals with Sātvic, Rājasic, and Tamasic foods respectively. This is the greatness of our Vedic tradition, where even our natural and instinctive activities like breathing and bathing, they too become a spiritual sadhana. Coming to Aharah Yajna, it is divided into 3 types. Swami Paramarthananda brings in 4 factors to determine the type. One is the source of food, the source from where it comes, who cooks the food, and the attitude behind it. Is done for commercial purpose, or is it done out of love and compassion? As while the food is consumed, the invisible vibrations of punya and papa are also received. Quality of food: sātvic, rājasic, and tamasic. The vegetarian food comes under sātvic. The quantity, the very important factor: eat only while you are hungry and eat sufficient to remove hunger, not full stomach. Then the 4th one is mode of eating. Eating is a form of yajna, a form of puja. One is expected to approach the process of eating very reverentially. Then there cannot be any spiritual poisoning or physical poisoning. The source, quality, quantity, frequency, and the mode of eating is highlighted as, according to the scriptures, Aharah Shuddha Sattva Shuddhihi. If the food is pure, it will make the mind pure, enabling the person to receive the knowledge. Sattvic diet will nourish the Sukshma Shariram, which is very important for spiritual sadhana. Next slide. In the 8th verse, Lord Krishna tells us of Sukha Priti Vivardhanaha, how Sattvic diet increases the longevity, the strength of the mind, mental immunity to violent emotions. Then Arogyam, Sukham, meaning internal relaxation. The Priti meaning comfort and happiness at the time of eating. Delicious and Radhyaha, visually pleasing. Now Lord Krishna tells of those foods which are very bitter, sour, saltish, hot, pungent, dry, and burning, which cause pain, sorrow, and disease, which are liked by the Rajasic kind of people. These type of food will have dukkha, shoka, maya pradaha, shoka, kamaya pradaha. They have adverse effect short term as well as long term. But these kind of people will be highly active and dynamic, but they cannot sit for an hour for Vedanta Shravanam and nor for japa and tapa. Spiritually disadvantageous, but materially advantageous. Then Lord Krishna tells about the food liked by the Tamasic people. Nutrientless, overcooked food, foul-smelling, food which is kept overnight, uchishtam, meaning leftover food, and amedyam, food which is not offered to the Lord. Shankaracharya tells that one wants to change one's character. If one wants to change one's character, many things will have to be changed, which includes the change in the food habits too. Now Lord Krishna elaborates the 3 types of yajna: Sātvika, Rājasika, and Tamasika. Sātvika yajna is that which is performed wholeheartedly according to scriptural injunctions by those who are not desirous of the material benefit, aphala kangshibihi. The yajna which is performed expecting a result and also for the sake of show is Rajasic. Selfish activity is also Rajasic. The yajna which is contrary to the scriptural injunctions, like the food cooked without proper mantras, without proper dakshina or faith. The message of these 3 verses is that for a spiritual seeker, tamasa yajna should be given up straight away. Lessen the selfish activity and increase the selfless activity meant for the benefit of more in the society, which is karma yoga. Karma yogi is one who gives more and receives less from the society. Next, coming to the topic of tapaha, meaning austerity, again, there is division based on the organ with which one practices. They are kājikam, vāchikam, and manasam. 14th verse talks about kājikam, 15th verse talks about vāchikam, and 16th verse talks about manasam. And later, Lord Krishna talks about sātvika, rājasa, and tamasa kind of tapas. First is kaikam. All types of puja and rituals come under physical austerity undertaken by the physical body. Now, Swami Paramarthananda tells us about the benefit of these puja. He says it is very important as this helps to remove the physical laziness. Next, it helps in reviving our relationship with the Lord, the shift from incidental relationship to the primary relationship. It helps us to acknowledge the wonderful life-giving elements. Fourth, it is an opportunity to integrate the family members together to worship Deva, Dvija, Guru, and Prajna. Deva is God, Dvija is the people who follow scriptures and worship of all gurus, and then Prajna is a Jnani. Next, he speaks about the Shaucham. After Shaucham is the physical purity, then it is Arjavam, integration of thoughts, word, and deed. Next comes Brahmacharya, the celibacy or chastity. Ahimsa, non-violence, not only the physical violence, even the way we handle all animate and inanimate objects. The second one is Vachikam. Vak tapas is the powerful one. It is the intellect itself, and the presiding deity is Brahma. The presiding deity of the organ of speech is Saraswati. Vak Indriyani, the powerful Jnanendriyani. Thus, Buddhi and Vak should go together, contributing to the growth. Swamiji says, words should be like the smoke of the agarbatti, spreading happiness to others. One should be a very responsible to understand the value of speech and thereby reducing the quantity and check the quality of words. Two norms should be strictly followed. It is anudvegakaram, that is verbal non-violence. Next, it is satyam. And then it is priyam, meaning the receiver must feel comfortable, pleasing manners. Fourth one is hitam. All these four are very important. Shastra Parayanam is also a Vak tapas. So all these 4 to 5 norms have to be strictly followed. Next comes Manasam tapas. Manasa is the another Indriyani, the toughest, a relaxed, stress-free mind. Thoughts should be gentle. Next, it is Maunam, learning to be silent with Sakshi Bhav is Maunam. Then it is the mind discipline by the direction of the thoughts. Positive thoughts, the Daivi sampatti should be encouraged. Unhealthy thoughts, the Asuri sampatti should be discouraged, which is Atma Vinigraha. Last, it is Bhava Samshuddhi, purity of motive, freedom from hidden motive. Division of tapas based on organs or instruments are over. Now Lord Krishna divides tapas once again based on the gunas. The next 3 verses, Sātvika, speaks of the sātvika, rājasa, and tamasa tapas. What is Sātvika tapas? This is based on the mode of practice, not practiced out of some pressure, but with value and regard for this discipline. Next, it is apala kangshibihi, without the expectation of any reward. Lord Krishna is asking us to be more sensitive, more mature, so that one will follow dharma as an end in itself. It is practiced out of conviction, and this is Sātvicam Parichakshate. Next comes the Rajasic tapaha, the austerity which is performed with pretense for the sake of praise, honor, and worship is said to be Rajasic, whose result is temporary and uncertain. Next comes Tamasic tapaha. Swamiji tells that this is like using sandalwood as fuel, using this for unhealthy, inferior resolve, for revenge, parasya utsadanartham, for the destruction of other people. In the next 3 verses, Lord Krishna is dealing with the significance of danam. Danam, Lord Krishna says, is a very powerful medicine to remove certain unhealthy traits in our personality. First delusion is mohaha. I get security from outside the world, from the world outside. Second is lobhaha, greed for acquisition. Third is karpanyam, miserliness. Now, the benefit of danam, he speaks. First, it helps in shaking the wrong pattern of thinking. Next, only in danam one is in harmony with nature. Third, the social benefit, when it is voluntary, the gap between the rich and the poor is reduced, and then there is joy. The fourth one, it is the rehearsal for the ultimate sannyasa. If I learn to relinquish the ownership of a few small little things, I can hope to relinquish the ownership of everything. This danam too is categorized into sātvic, rājasic, and tamasic. Danam given at the right place, right time, to the right and deserving person. Next slide. Deserving person is sātvika danam, which is an end in itself. Then the danam given reluctantly for the sake of something in return or expecting a result is considered to be rājasic. Here danam is a means, a sakama danam. Next danam given at the wrong place and wrong time to unworthy people without honoring and with contempt is said to be tamasic. Next slide. From the 23rd verse till the 27th verse, Lord Krishna is dealing with the most significant mantra, Om Tat Sat, which is associated with the concluding part of religious activities. In these verses, Lord gives certain important points. First, Om Tat Sat is a very powerful mantra made up of 3 names of God. The meaning of Om is the protector and sustainer of everything. The meaning of Tat is the Lord who is beyond all the instruments of knowledge, aprameyaha. The meaning of the word Sat is the eternal principle existing in the very existence itself. This powerful mantra has been used by the creator Brahmaji himself when he undertook his job of creating this wonderful universe. So Om Tat Sat has become a meaningful and conventional expression among the spiritual seekers in their spiritual activity. Next, the utterance of this mantra can convert all Rajasic and Tamasic karma to get converted into sātvic and spiritual karma. Then Lord Krishna tells that Brahmaji's creation is wonderful, but within this creation, there are 3 creations which are very significant. They are Brahmana, Veda, and Yajna. Yajna here means the wise and intelligent lifestyle led by humanity, converting the knowledge and power constructively. Veda is very important because from the Veda alone, Yajna way of life has emanated. Then the third aspect, Vedam Janati iti Brahman. Thus Brahmana sustains the Vedas, Veda sustains the Yajna way of life, and Yajna sustains the creation. The 24th verse speaks of uttering the mantra partially, that is, Om helps the spiritual seekers to follow all the yajnas like Pancha Maha Yajnas. Next slide. All types of, next slide please, all types of danam, tapas, etc. The 25th verse speaks of uttering the word tat again to reaffirm the power of mantra to help the seekers to pursue their spiritual quest. In verse 26 and 27, Lord Krishna elaborates the word sat, which is used in the sense of existence and goodness. Lord Krishna gives 5 meanings here. The first meaning is sadbhave sadityeta prachyutyate, good conduct, satpurusha, sant, etc. The second meaning is sadbhavaja, meaning pure existence. Prashaste karmani is the third meaning, which means any good karma. Fourth meaning is perseverance. Fifth, karma chaiva tadarthyam, any supportive karma for yajna, dana, tapas, which is also called sat karma. Now coming to the last verse, ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asadityuchyate partha nacha tat pretya no iha. The meaning is, whatever is offered as oblation, given as charity, practiced as austerity, and done as worship without faith is said to be asat. It fructifies neither in this material world nor in Paraloka too. Therefore, Lord Krishna reminds us of the most important thing, that is Shraddha, and concludes the 17th chapter, Shraddhatraya Vibhaga, the yoga of the division of the threefold faith. Now, coming to the Tattva Bodha topic, in correspondence to the subject matter of this chapter, Shankaracharya in his text Tattva Bodha specifies that human goal should culminate in spiritual accomplishment. The three levels of sadhana is mentioned for this, which is none other than the essence of Gita. They are Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Coming to the first step of Karma Yoga, it is nothing but proper action with proper attitude. To understand what is proper action, actions are categorized under three headings: Uttama Karmani, Madhyama Karmani, and Adhama Karmani. Uttama Karmani, known as sātvika Karmani, where you give more and take less. Para Upakara Karmani or Nishkama Karmani contribute to the spiritual growth. Scriptures lay down fivefold yajna to contribute to the welfare of the world. Gratitude plus upakara means yajna. So, five yajna are mentioned. First is Deva Yajna, worship and prayer of God. I express my gratitude to my Lord for what the Lord has given to me, and then it is a great contribution to the creation. Second, then I learn to contribute to the creation too. Second is Pitri Yajna. Here I express my gratitude to all my forefathers. Third is Brahma Yajna. Brahma here means Vedas, and here we express our gratitude to all the rishis who have given the Vedas and all secondary scriptures by way of Parayanam and by learning and teaching Vedic knowledge. Fourth is Manushya Yajna. It is the service to the society and humanity. Fifth is Bhuta Yajna, contributing to living as well as non-living beings, animals, plants, etc., where one is aware of the totality of creation. So to be a Uttama Adhikari, all these five yajna have to be followed. Next comes the Madhyama Karmani, Sakama Karmani or Rajasa Karmani. Kamya Karmas come under Madhyama Karmani, leading to spiritual stagnation. Third one is Adhama Karmani, Tamasa Karmani or Nishiddha Karmani, all prohibited actions or destructive actions which lead to the spiritual retrogression. The scriptures point out that Uttama Karmani should be dominant for a Karma Yogi. Madhyama Karmani should be less, and Adhama Karmani should be zero. Here we conclude today's topic of the 17th chapter as well as the three type of actions. Thank you, Doctor. Thank Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Vidyaji. It was a great summary of chapter number 17. We learned through all these things, and from Tattva Bodha also, as we have seen that what is an Uttama Karma. I was listening to something, and I think Vidyaji also told the same thing, that somebody asked some Swamiji that what is Papa and what is Punya, what is the Rājasic, Tamasic, how should I identify which one should I do, which one should I not do. The basic one guideline is that if whatever I'm doing is helping others more than it is helping me, or if it helps me, it is incidental. Obviously, it should not hurt anybody. If it is helping others, then that is something that we are absolutely certainly we can do. So that those are called Uttama Karmas. And I think that that kind of leads into that will also prepare our mind to be a sātvic mind. Because now I'm not doing it for something which is my own material gain or for my own getting something, or like when we sign those MOUs with the God that if you give me something, then I will do that and all. I'm doing it just for the sake of it. And in that, what I actually achieve is the purity of my mind. That my mind becomes such a great reflection that the consciousness actually just reflects in it in its truest nature. And that's how we become an instrument to shine his glory. So that is the actual goal of doing these uttama karmas and preparing this soil. Great that we have understood that what is self-knowledge. And now for that self-knowledge to really shine through, we need a great soil or a great mirror to reflect through. So in this chapter, we saw that Shraddha is very important. Shraddha is how am I approaching a certain thing. Shraddha is also another sense called like whether do I have a blind faith or do I have a faith that yes, my guru, my scriptures are saying the right things and I must follow them. If I've not understood, maybe it's something in me only. So maybe let me just redo it. Maybe just go through it again, ask my questions and all. But there are other 4 topics that also were dealt. And those are very important in our daily lives. This chapter is actually an implementation chapter. It's not just a knowledge chapter. So far, we have seen so many knowledge chapters in which we just understand what is Jivatma, what is Paramatma, what is Aikyam, what is Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and all those things we have seen. But these are the things that we have to really implement. If we implement these, we are 90% through. So in other words, when they say sadhana chatushtaya sampatti and all, this is how we gain the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. And yes, we have to do with absolute sincerity. And only then all these things would become sat. Otherwise, whatever we do, whether it's oblation, charity, chanting, austerity, anything, it just becomes asat. So we have to strive towards doing things in a sat manner, or else there is no benefit that will come to us, whether it is material in this life or in the next life. So let's just be concentrated on that. And now let's just see what we have understood so far. I think Padmaji and team has really created a great quiz. So Padmaji, invite you to please go through that quiz. Thank you.
Hari Om. Srimati Pannaga Prasad will answer the questions. Pannaga?
Yes, ma'am. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Okay. What is shad sampatti? The 6-fold inner wealth of virtues.
They are Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and sorry, I forgot the last one.
Samadhama.
Yes.
Samadhama.
Yes.
Yes. Next question. What is Shraddha?
Shraddha is faith and devotion in our scriptures and in the Guru who teaches us these scriptures.
Yes. Guru Vedanta Vakya Adishu Vishwasaha Shraddha. Next question. Shraddha is of 3 kinds. Swabhavaja, born of one's nature. Satvanurupa, according to the nature of one's mind. Name them.
They are sātvika, rājasica, and tamasica.
Yes, the sātvika, which is driven by desire of purest kind. The rājasica, driven by desire for materialistic goals. The tamasika, driven by ignorance and wrong thinking. Next question. Worship has 3 factors: object, mode, and motive of worship. If the object of worship is Shiva, Rama, Krishna, and mode of worship is mental and inward, and motive of worship is for inner spiritual growth, it is dash in nature.
It is sātvic in nature.
Yes. What is the object, mode, and motive of worship of a Rajasic person?
A Rajasic person worships materialistic gods such as Kubera and the Yakshas and the Rakshasas. The mode of worship is purely ritualistic, and the motive of worship is for their own selfish ends.
Material growth. Yes. Next question. What is the object, mode, and motive of worship of a Tamasic person?
Yeah, like Vidyama mentioned, they worship ghosts and spirits, and the mode of worship is physically abusive to themselves and probably others also. And the motive of worship is to harm others only.
All right. Now coming to Aharah. Aharah, which increases Ayu, life, like Sattva, purity, Balam, strength, Arogyam, health, are of dash nature.
Sātvik.
Yes. Aharah that create pain, grief, and disease like katuha bitter, amlaha sour, lavana saline, tikshnaha pungent are dash in nature.
Rajasic.
Okay. Aharah, which is yatyam, stale, gatarasam, tasteless, puti, putrid, paryushitam, rotten, amedhyam, impure, are dash in nature.
Tamasic.
Yes. The 10th question. Men not desiring any material benefit other than moksha.
They are mm, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Afala kankshibihi.
Okay.
Afala. Next question. Karma done with Shraddha to God, with Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Ishvara Prasada Bhava is dash.
Is karma yoga and also called sātvika yagna.
Yes. Action prescribed by the scriptures for inner growth, like morning prayers, morning japa, etc., is dash.
They are vidhi dishtaha.
Yes. Next question. Which is contrary to scriptural injunctions.
Vidhi hinam.
Yes. Divide of proper chanting of Vedic mantras.
Mantra hinam.
Divide of distributing proper dakshina.
Adakshinam.
Yes. Divide of faith.
Shraddha virahitam.
Yes. Next question. Tapas, austerity. Spiritual discipline of the body is.
Kayika tapas.
Yes. Devadavi Jaguru Prana Pujanam.
They are physical rituals which have to be practiced regularly.
Yes. Deva like Ishta Devata, Davi Shastra Puja, etc. And Sauchim.
Physical cleanliness.
Alignment of thought, word, and deed.
Arjavam.
Yes. Physical non-violence.
Ahimsa.
Yes. Celibacy for a sage, chastity for a grahastha.
This is brahmacharyam.
Yes. Next question. Anudvegakaram. Vak, tapas or verbal discipline for austerity and speech. Anudvegakaram.
Yes, ma'am.
That is avoid verbal himsa. Okay.
Right.
Satyam. Satyam.
Is truthfulness.
Priyam hitam.
They should be pleasing and beneficial to the listener.
To the speaker and listener. Yes. What is a sātvic tapas?
Sātvic tapas is tapas done according to the scriptures without any expectations and focused on following dharma.
Yes, the threefold austerity. Paraya Shraddhaya, great Shraddha for scriptures. Afala Kangshibihi, without expectation and desiring no phalam. Yuktaha, steadfast focus in following dharma. Charity danam is sattvic in nature when?
Danam is sattvic when it is offered with reverence to the right person at the right time and without expecting anything in return.
Yes, anupakarine. Yes. Charity danam when given grudgingly, reluctantly, with expectation is?
Is Rajasic danam.
Yes, pariklishtam. Okay. Charity danam is tamasic in nature when?
When it is forcefully given and to an undeserving person.
When it is offered to an undeserving person, apatrebhyaha, and at a wrong place and a wrong time, adesha kali. Next, dash is uttered before starting any yagna, pancha yagna, dana, all types of dana, tapas, kaika, vachika, manas tapas, and kriyas.
It is Om Tat Sat.
Yes. In verse 27, Lord Krishna gives three meanings to Sat. They are
It is sadbhave, that is pure and eternal. Sadhu bhave, that is good and noble. And prashasta karmani, which are noble activities.
Yes. Then coming to Tattva Buddha, karma which have maximum positive spiritual influence is
Sātvic karma.
yes, Uttama karma and Uttama. Karma which have got limited or nil spiritual influence.
They are madhyama karma.
Yes, Madhyama karma. Those actions which have negative spiritual contribution, which means those which will cause spiritual fall or retrogression.
They are the lowest category, adhama karma.
Yes. Para Uppkara karma is synonymous
with Satvika karmani.
Yes, Uttama karmani, Para Uppkara karmani, Satvika karmani, Nishkama karmani. Para Uppkara karma are presented as Pancha Mahayagnaha. They are
Deva Yagna, Pitru Yagna, Brahma Yagna, Manushya Yagna, and Bhuta Yagna.
yes, Deva Yagnaha, remembrance of the divine, Pitru Yagna, remembrance of ancestors, Brahma Yagna, remembrance of rishis, Manushya Yagna, remembrance of humanity, Bhuta Yagna, remembering animals, plants, rivers, etc. Hari Om. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Panaga.
Thank you, ma'am. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Shamala ji, for the divine shloka. Srimati Vidya, for your wonderful presentation, providing clarity in understanding. Srimati Padma, for the educative teaching quiz, capturing the essence of today's topics. Hearty thanks to Sri Ullas for the strong foundation to the day's presentation and highlighting the key aspects. Most importantly, thank you, friends, for your active participation. Friends, remember to log in on Friday, 16th June 23 at 6:45 p.m. sharp for our 64th session of DISHA to understand the subtle difference between sannyasa and tyaga as explained by the Lord in verses 1 to 12 of the 18th chapter, Moksha Sannyasa Yoga of Bhagavad Gita. And from the subtopic of Tattva Bodha, Karma Yoga, right attitude shall also be explained. Dhanyavada and Shubharatri. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.